And so today, again, we're going to be talking about the Client Connect and eInvoice Connect software that you will be using. The thing that's very important to understand is your ERP is the source of truth, system of record. So everything that happens inside of what we're going to take a look at today is going to be generated by a file that you're sending to us. So your ERP initiates the creation of invoices and documents to be sent to your customers. That's dropped into an SFTP or Secure File Transfer Protocol folder, and then we parse the data. And data parsing simply means that we are going to take the information that you're sending and translating it into a usable format on our end. Michael Van Pelt and Bree, that team is working hard right now to create your templates. Your templates are your shell PDFs. So you should be able to see on my screen here, we have this sort of PDF invoice representation, this icon. And so we build those shells for you so that we have nice, pretty looking documents that are getting sent to your customers. We build those in advance. So these files that you're sending from your ERP generate those documents. Those documents are listed under each customer's account number. And the Client Connect software, the first piece of software we're going to look at today, is your software. It is what your internal employees at Marjam will use. So you will sign into Client Connect, and if you want to see those bills that Billtrust is sending on your behalf to your customers, you'll be able to log in to Client Connect to research the bills that have been sent out, and you can even resend them by email, and I'll show you how we do that. Your customers cannot gain access to the Client Connect software. That is for your employees only. So we want to keep that in mind as we go through today's training. There are two different levels of access that we're going to look at. The first bit is Marjam only, so no customers have access to that. And then the second piece is going to be eInvoice Connect, where both yourself and your customers can gain access to documents. But it's really intended or branded and set up to be your customer's portal. And so we're going to take a look at that today. Your customers can get into eInvoice Connect. It's going to have your colors, your branding. It's going to feel like your bill payment site. And so your customers can go here 24/7 to download, print, and even pay their bills all in one location using a username and password right there in eInvoice Connect. Okay, so your piece is called Client Connect, their piece is called eInvoice Connect, and we're going to take a look at both of those today. So any questions from a high level about what we're going to be looking at, why, or what we're doing here today? Feel free to ask now. As I said, you can unmute at any point. Feel free to interrupt. You don't have to save your questions to the end. All right, no questions, cool. So that's it for the PowerPoint presentation. I'm gonna hop out of that. And now we are in the Client Connect software. So I'm just gonna zoom in. When you first sign in, it's gonna look like that. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit for today's training, make it easier for you to see everything. You can see we are in a Marjam test site right now. So just to give you an idea, when you go to sign in for the first time, you'll get a company name that will be supplied to you by Bree. You'll get a username and a password for each individual. So it's not one password that everybody uses or one username that everybody uses. Every person has their own username and password to sign in. When you first sign in, you're brought to this research tab. So up here at the top left, this light blue color indicates the area of the software that you're currently using. So research is where we are right now. And this is kind of a busy page. So if you will, this Billtrust news bit is just that, it's some news. You'll, in the real system, have stuff that's 2020. This is just a, as I said, a test site. So we'll ignore all this for now. Up here at the top is really what we want to talk about. Search by and search for. This will be here at all times when we are in the research tab. It's important to understand that in Client Connect, everything that comes in from those files we were just talking about from your ERP is indexed by account number. So what that means is when we create a PDF, it lives underneath the account number of the customer. So if the customer has multiple account numbers, then invoices could be in different locations. So it's always best to do the account number search, ask the customer for the account number associated with the document that they're talking about, and I'll show you why in a moment. You can also do a client name search. If you have their email address included in the file that you're sending from your ERP, you can do an email address search. If the email was not included in the file that you're sending from your ERP, you won't find anything for that email address. Invoice number search, it's not a perfect search. So again, generally I suggest that you would use the account number search instead of the invoice number search. So if we do that account number search, if you search for customers that have account numbers that start with number 2, you'll see that it bolds the search criteria. So I've searched for a customer account number that starts with the number 2. I've gotten 2 items back. If I search for anything starting with the number 1, you're going to see I get a different search criteria here. So we call this starts with search. So the search for is only going to look for the items that we have in here. So if I do a starts with search and I'm looking for customer account numbers that start with 102, then it's going to drill down into this customer account numbers that start with 102. If they had 102 in the middle, if they had 102 at the end, that's not going to find those. It's only going to find the items that start with the numbers 102 in this case. All right, so any questions so far? Again, feel free to interrupt and jump in and ask questions. Okay, no questions, cool. We will go ahead and look at a specific customer that I arranged for us to take a look at today. In order to go into the customer, I have to click on the customer's account number on the left-hand side. And now you'll see I'm still in the research tab. I still have my search by and search for up here at the top. But now I'm in the account page. So I'm looking at account number 2181, Cash Boston. You'll see that there is a billing address. You'll see that there is an account name. You'll see that there's an account number. All of that is controlled by your ERP. So the files that you're sending to BillTrust are what indicate the customer account number, the customer name, the customer billing address. If the customer is set up as an email customer in your ERP, you also have the ability to change for that customer how they receive emails from you. So if they are an email bill customer, that means they are just getting emails, no paper or anything like that, just emails. We have 3 options. We have single email, single file, single email, separate files, and separate emails, separate files. So what does that mean? Well, if account number 2181 has generated 5 invoices today, let's say, single email, single file will email them 1 email, 1 document. That 1 document is called a PDF again, so that's what this indicates here. Inside of that 1 PDF, there'll be 5 different invoices. So they're unique documents. They don't get totaled or added together in any way. So there are 5 unique documents inside of 1 PDF that they can download and print. Separate email, separate files will send them 1 email still, but they'll get 5 unique attachments, each one being a different invoice. And then separate emails, separate files means that they'll get 5 emails, each email having 1 invoice attached. That is a PDF. For any of those options, you can also choose to zip, so it doesn't matter what you pick. You can zip that file, which shrinks down that email, shrinks down that attached PDF, and sends it to them in a smaller format. Okay. In order to accept those changes or make those changes, we're going to click Save. And now the customer will start getting separate emails with separate files, and they're always zipped. Okay, so again, any questions? Tell me if I'm moving too fast, too slow. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is down here. You can see that there's this header row, this blue bar. Up above the blue bar, there's a bunch of buttons. So let's talk about the blue bar, and then we'll talk about the buttons. This blue bar is configurable globally for your company. So every customer you go in is going to look like this. So Gary asks, are we muted on your end? No, everybody, Gary, should be unmuted. Just, yep, just double checking. Yep. So you can, if you're muted, you can unmute at any time. There you are.
Can you guys hear me? Okay,
yep,
sorry about that. I thought you had us muted. I just wanted to say that you guys will not be delivering any documents for us automatically. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Hello? You guys won't be delivering any documents for us automatically.
No, I can't hear you.
Okay, might be my phone.
I see that you're talking, but I can't hear anything. There you are.
Okay, is this any better?
Yep, that's better.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
yeah,
I just wanted to say that you guys won't be delivering any documents for us automatically.
Okay.
We're going to be delivering them ourselves. Customers are just going to be paying their bills and picking up documents online.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
So we're not emailing any bills on your customers. You're getting a file back from us with the PDFs, and then you're sending them.
We send them out ourselves from our system. The only thing we're using this system for is for customers to log in, pay their bills, for our own people to log in, pay bills for customers. Customers will go and pick up the documents if they want to, but we're not pushing anything out to them.
Perfect, Gary. That's really important to know. Thanks so much. And you're not, so then you wouldn't be resending them through here. If they needed a resend, you'll send it a different way.
Correct.
Perfect. All right. So
or we'll send them here to pick them up themselves. One or the other.
Okay. So Carmela, looks like Carmela's not hearing anything. So just quick sound check. Can everyone hear me okay?
I can hear you. I couldn't dial in. Now I dialed in.
You're good. Okay.
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. All right, so what Gary said, Carmela, was that we actually won't be emailing any files through this. So what I was just saying about the email attachments and so forth, you can ignore that. What you're going to be doing is sending those documents yourselves instead of Billtrust sending it. And then we get what's called a thin billing file, which is the copy of the document you've sent is sent through the system and then given to the customer. So that's how we're going to look at it today. So really the point of Client Connect, which kind of cuts off about 15 minutes of training here, is you're just going to use this to go in and accept payments from your customers. And so that makes it much quicker here. So what you're going to do is customer calls you up. You're going to search for their account number. Once you get into their account number, you'll notice you have an invoice column here. Ask that customer for the invoice number that they're looking to pay. This is what we call a contain search. So up here, we have to know what the account number starts with, and getting the exact account number would be great. Here, we can just look for any invoice that contains the number, let's say 006. You can set a filter to see just that invoice. Okay, so here we have just this one invoice. Customer is looking to pay this invoice. We check the box on the left-hand side, and you can ignore all of these buttons here. All of these will most likely be turned off by your account manager, your project manager, excuse me. And then you'll just have this accept payments button. So when we click accept payments, this brings us to the pay bill wizard. The pay bill wizard then allows you to take short payments if you need to. So if the customer says, well, I'm just going to pay $250.37 on this, you can then enter a short pay reason, which isn't turned on yet, but you can let Bree and Michael know that if you want a list here, you can have a drop-down list of your preferred deduction codes, or you can make this a typable field where you can type in the box and just say the reason for the short pay or overpay.
Sorry, question for you. I thought that box was supposed to be turned on with the reason codes.
Yeah.
So who's going to get that done?
Probably, yeah. So Michael Van Pelt and or Bree Wolf would be the ones working on getting that done. My understanding, you guys are under the gun getting this all set up. So, so I would double check with them to see anything that's not turned on right now. Hopefully they'll get that turned on before you go live.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I couldn't speak when you were asking questions initially because I didn't have the dial-in information. I was on the presentation. Are you guys setting up our credit managers, or is that something we have to do? Mike or Gary or Carmela, do you guys remember who's doing that? Because I believe we give you the list of everyone who needs to be set up.
Yeah, so again, that's more a question for Bree or Michael who aren't on this call. Generally, we would set up anybody that you asked to have set up on here initially, and then going forward, you have an assigned admin that would add anybody as you hire them, or their responsibilities include having access to this. But generally what happens is we would set you all up initially and then give you those logins, and then you would create your own passwords. So
Mike from Billtrust, do you know if that's being done?
Mike from Billtrust isn't on this call.
Oh, he's not on this call. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll take Mike that tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Gary.
Mike and Bree weren't in the office, I think, today or something like that, so they weren't able to join. All right, great questions though. So once you get past that that window where we would put in a short pay and a short pay reference, then we have the pay information where we're going to select the payment type of account. So ask the customer, this is business checking or saving, personal checking or savings. Get the bank name, the name on the account, the routing number, and we even have a handy picture over here so that you can describe to the customer where to find their routing and account numbers. Get that information, enter the account number twice, as you can see here. The address, the billing address of the customer that they have associated with that bank account. And then very importantly is the email address for a confirmation email, because we will send, a payment confirmation email so that they have sort of like a receipt of this payment, if you will. And then you do need to sort of read this disclaimer to them, and I highlighted the wrong stuff, here we go. Read this disclaimer to them. Once they approve, you check off the box that says they authorize this payment, and then this grayed out thing that says authorize will turn blue. Now, as a Billtrust employee, I'm not allowed to ever take payments through the system, so this is always grayed out for me. But for you, as a Marjam employee, you'll be able to go ahead, put this information in, check this box, it'll turn on this authorize button. You'll be able to click authorize and take the payment. Now, how do payments work? Well, if you schedule the payment for today, 6/1, then you have until 3 p.m. today before it processes. Once 3 p.m. East Coast time hits today, then this this payment will process. If you schedule this payment for another date, if you look at payment date, we can post date the payment. So if this particular invoice isn't due until the 5th, until Friday, we can post date this until Friday. When we do a post date like this, then that payment will remain unprocessed until Thursday night around 11:59, 11:58 p.m. And then that payment will process for that day, for the 25th, or excuse me, for the 5th. Okay, so something to keep in mind. Until that time, you actually can use something called cancel, which I'll show you in a few moments. So once I click authorize, then I'd be able to take that payment. Of course, as I said, as a Billtrust employee, I'm not able to do that. Now, once you take the payment,
can you hear me? This is Mike from Marjam.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If they make a prepayment or a post payment like that, where it's not going to post for several days, at what point are we notified of the payment? Is it going to come to us in our payment file after that date, or is it going to show up before then?
Great question. So the answer is you will get the data around that payment when it transacts. So it would be the date that it processes. So if it processes at 11:59 on the 4th, you'll receive that in your file on the 5th. So you'll find out about it on the day that it was paid.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and so if it was today, June
Is there
1st, you would get that file today.
Is there any way to see pending payments that are out there? If somebody dated a payment for a week or two later and we wanted to see that payment, is there any way to find it?
Yep, that's where we are going to next. It's called payment history. So if we take a look at payment history, I don't have anything in here yet. I'm going to come back here a little bit later. But in payment history, anything that's been paid already through Client Connect or eInvoice Connect, and anything that has been scheduled to be paid will live here. So you can come here, you can search for it by a confirmation number, you can search for it by date, you can search for it by any of the details that you see up top. So anywhere you see this little downward facing triangle, you can click on that and search by any one of these headers that are coming from the payment details. Under actions, if it has not processed yet, you can cancel that payment up until that time so in other words, today, June 1st at 3 p.m., I would have up until about 2:59 to go in and cancel this payment if I had scheduled it. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so payment history, excuse me, payment history will not just show Client Connect payments, it'll also show eInvoice Connect payments, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. All right, so we don't need really audit log. It won't be doing anything in here. So the only other thing to show you in Client Connect today is going to be the eInvoice Connect Users tab. So what does this mean? Well, if your customer has signed up or has been registered already for the eInvoice Connect software, which is their Marjam site, then they will have access to log in. Because they have access to log in, you'll be able to see their username and their email address. You'll be able to go in and sign in as their admin user. So this person whose username is 2181, their email address, this is the admin user. So I can go in and sign in as that admin user. And this brings me to the Marjam site. Okay, so I'm in here as if I were the customer. Right, so before we get too deep into the customer site, any questions about the Client Connect software or how you'll be using it?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Do you have any questions?
Well, did you say we can go in, the customer log in? I mean, any person who has admin can go in in a customer's login. Can they make changes? Because I don't like that.
Yes, they can absolutely go in as that admin user. Mm-hmm. So if there's individuals that shouldn't have access, you can restrict that access.
Okay, so here's my dumb question. They can go in and edit the customer's payment?
Yes.
Okay, so Gary and Carmela and everyone else, we have to talk about that. I don't want that. If a customer is making payment, I don't need our credit managers to go and edit their payments.
Yep, definitely something, one of the reasons why we give this training is so that you can start thinking about those things and making those decisions for sure.
Okay. Because if somebody's saying they're paying $5,000, we can go in and edit and pull $50,000 from their bank.
Yes, the functionality exists for you to do that. If someone were to attempt that, I'll go back and audit log actually sounds like something maybe we do need to talk about. If someone goes in as that customer and attempts to make that change, it will be recorded in the audit log based on who that person was when they did that. So you'd be able to see in this audit log who went in, when they went in, and what time of day even they went in and made that change. So it is twofold. It's recorded when you do something, but it's also preventable. So in the admin settings, you can decide, make what's called a group, and you can limit that group. So if it's just the let's say collections people, and I'm sorry, Doris, who did you say it was?
Credit managers or collections manager. So I have a question for you. Can we have a super user, someone who can actually make that change, but give everyone else admin where they can add a customer but not modify a customer payment?
Absolutely. Yep. So let me take you to that area so I can just kind of show you how that works. I'm going to go to admin. I'm going to go to groups. And in groups, we have that super admin already preset. So let's see who's already added here. So let's say, Gary, you want Gary to be that ad?
So we're going to make Carmela the super admin for now.
Right. So if Carmela was at super admin, you'd leave her at admin, and then everybody else, you can go in, edit them, and change them to a different group. Now, the other groups that we have don't have the access that you probably want. So what you would need to do is create your own group, and Bree can probably help you with this. You can create your own groups, and to make sure that you have the group the way you want it, you would turn on the things you want them to have access to, maybe reports, BillTrust News, enroll a customer in eInvoice Connect, but you would not turn on the ability to sign in as the customer. So if you leave that unchecked, then they would not be able to go in and click that button and then go see what the customer sees.
Okay, so now I have another dumb question. Historically, all our customers call into our credit managers and they give them their information to do a current ACH that we do, because we do it a very manual process. So if we don't give the credit managers that super admin security, then they cannot go in the customer's account and put through their payment?
So they won't be able to go through the customer's account. They'll have to ask the customer for the payment details every time. So each time the customer calls, they'll have to ask them for their ACH information. And let me just show you. So they can still take a payment without being able to sign in as the customer. They would just find the invoice here, check the box on the invoices that the customer is paying, then click accept payment. So they could still take a payment without going in.
So then do they have to also then manually enter the customer's bank information every time?
Yes. Unless you want to talk to, and I don't know if this is in scope for your project or not, but there is a function that exists where you can save the payment detail for the customer here. Both ways, the payment detail gets tokenized so that the credit managers, collection managers can't see the payment details. So in other words, they can't review the ACH information. It's just the last 4 digits of the account once it's been entered for compliance purposes. But BillTrust does have a functionality where there would be another checkbox down here at the bottom where we could save the payment details for future use, but it doesn't look like that's a part of this particular setup. So you may want to discuss that with Bree and Michael Van Pelt to see if that's in scope for this project, or if there's something maybe phase 2.
Well, there's not going to be a phase 2, and it's food for thought. We have to rethink if we're going to give everybody a super admin to modify or to enter customers' payment and log into the customer's account. Personally, I'd like all the customers to log in themselves and pay their bills, and not to have our credit manager do it.
Right.
So Carmela, for tomorrow takeaway, we have to remember to see if the credit managers go in and not in the customer's account, will it save their information so they don't have to redo it? I don't remember if our scope of work has this or not. I know they talked about it. Gary or Mike, do you remember?
What about it?
I thought they said they were doing it.
I thought it's good. I know we talked about this, that we didn't have to retype it, but I just want to double check tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to be clear too, they don't have to go in. So I want to be as concise as possible. So your credit managers could come in here, take a payment in Client Connect, and never look at eInvoice Connect. They could never have to come in here to take a payment. This is where your customers come to make a payment. So your credit manager should never go in here unless, from your point of view, you want them to help a customer use this and say, oh, go here and click these buttons. If you don't need them to do that, then they don't need to have access to this to take a payment. Taking a payment is done from your side strictly through Client Connect. Client Connect is your piece of software. eInvoice Connect, which is this, which you can see looks completely different. This is your customer software. So as you stated, customers should be using this. Your employees should not be using this unless they want to know, oh, my customer's stuck and they don't know how to make a payment. But, you know, that's not necessarily.
Okay, so our customer is only going to do Client Connect.
Other way around. Your customers are only going to do this we're looking at right now, which is eInvoice Connect.
eInvoice Connect, and we're going to do Client Connect.
Client Connect, yeah. So Client Connect looks like this. It's got that blue bar. The blue bar is all over the place. This is your Marjam supply. You know, it looks like a Billtrust website, right? Whereas this one looks like your logo, your branding. This is for your customers.
Okay, and when we take the payment, their bank information is going to be saved there, or we have to enter it every time?
For right now, you'd have to enter it every time here, unless it's in scope for you to have the checkbox that would save the payment information for the future.
Okay, so we're going to have to ask that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, but we want to push our customers to go online and do their own payment.
Exactly. Great. So let's talk about your customers going online, making their own payments. This is that Marjam site, as I mentioned, that is eInvoice Connect, where they're going to sign in. Once they sign in, they will be brought to this, what we call summary page. On the summary page, there will be buckets of invoices potentially based on the due date. So if the due date says that it's 30 days old, there'll be a bucket that says 30 days. If the due date says it's 60 days old, there'll be a bucket that says 60 days. If the bucket says it's 90 days old, there'll be a bucket that says 90 days old. So in this case, our customer has only payments remaining or outstanding account receivable for 5 documents for $611.87 that are all 90 days past due. So I could check this box and I'll be paying the $611.87 right from here. I could check total. So if I have some stuff in 30, 60, and 90, and I check total, it'll include all of those. You might even have a box or a bucket that says current, which means it hasn't even reached the due date yet. So the customer has the ability to, let's say, select 30, 60, 90, leave the current unpaid, or they could select just the 90, or they could even pay other amount. So pay other amount allows them to select, let's say I'm just going to pay $600. What this is going to do is it's going to figure out $600 from the oldest invoice to the newest invoice, and then $11.87 will probably be what's left, unpaid, but that could be on one document or across multiple documents. So whatever they select, they then need to select pay amount. If they don't have a bank account on file, this is where we were talking about them adding and saving a bank account. So this is the process the customer will go through, creating a name for the bank account. Putting the account number twice, then the address associated with this payment account. zip code, and then save. Once this payment account has been entered, they are then brought to the pay bill wizard for Marjam, and this is the eInvoice Connect site. You'll see that the oldest document has been paid in full. It's used a credit memo, and then the remaining document here, instead of paying the full $61.64, is getting paid $49.77. Okay, so this is a way for your customers to come in and very quickly pay you. They don't have to do a lot of research. They're not doing any disputes or anything like that. They're just coming in, they're just paying you real quick. Okay, so this is called the summary page. If they want to look into things a little bit more, they want to see the documents themselves, they want to look at the bills, they can go to the Open tab. Under the Open tab up here at the top, you can see they can pay invoices, they can print, they can download the bills as a CSV file or a CSV detail file. They can click on these PDF buttons here to view the PDFs. So these are the bills that you're sending to us that you've already sent to the customer. So we keep those on file for the customer to come in and view. They can view those individual documents, or they can view multiple documents at the same time and then print those out right from here. Now, they may have a different look depending on the type of Adobe reader that they're using or PDF reader that they're using. I use Adobe. Theirs might be a little bit different. I have Google Chrome. Again, they may have, Internet Explorer or something else. So that does change the way it looks a little bit, but not much. So when they're in here, if they want to, go ahead, was there a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. Do you guys have like a cheat sheet, because we're sending out a letter to the customer of how to sign up at the website? I was thinking also maybe we can do an attachment as a cheat sheet, like this button means this, here's where you can, or some shortcuts. I guess I should talk to that woman who trained us on the website. Carmel, what was her name?
Was it Noni?
Yeah, so maybe we can explain to the customer what every tab means.
So we have an e-adoption team. I don't know if you've spoken to your e-adoption manager.
Yeah, we did. That's who I was talking to.
Yeah, so they probably have those separate resources that you can use. One Sheets, there's probably, I think they have an email campaign that they can assist with, all sorts of stuff like that for sure.
Okay.
Yep. So paying an invoice, they check the boxes here on the left. They click pay invoices. You'll notice I selected a credit memo, so it changes the total dollar amount that I'm putting in. Again, I can go in here, change the dollar amount for a short pay, change the date over here. So I'm post dating this to the 18th. Everything that we talked about before with post dating still applies. Again, here we can enter text, or you'll have a drop-down list. Again, speak with Michael tomorrow about what that should be. Go ahead and save. It'll bring me then to the authorization screen where I can authorize this payment. Now, once this payment has been scheduled, the customer will again get this payment receipt email. You can also print out. You'll see a confirmation number here exists now for all three documents under the same confirmation number because they're paying them all together for the total of $251.46. So I'm not going to print that out, but again, here's a better view of that. So now once that payment has been authorized and confirmed, that payment has been scheduled, it now lives in payment history. It lives in payment history in Client Connect. So just a quick zoom in, you can see here's all that information. Here's that confirmation number we just looked at. I click the plus sign. We can see the invoice numbers that were just paid. We can see the description I put on that one document. We can see the dollar amounts for each individual item. So that all lives here in payment history. We can see what happened and how that payment occurred, what date, time. Same thing for your customer. If you'll notice, they have an open balance, and then there's a column called paid online. So since I just paid these items online, you can see how much I paid on each one. They will remain open, sitting here like this, until your ERP sends us a file, which happens daily, an open balance file it's called, that moves these to a $0 open balance. Once that open balance goes to $0, that document gets moved to the closed tab. So closed tab will contain all documents that have been paid to $0. Whether they paid it through this process or they paid you with a paper check or some other way, it will show up in closed as $0. In payment history, you're only going to see the payment history for things scheduled through eInvoice Connect. They're not going to come in here and see that they wrote you a check. This will only be for those items that they've paid through eInvoice Connect. Now, there were some questions about modifying or canceling the payment. Since this is scheduled for 6/18/2020, I could come in here and cancel this payment on 6/17 by 11:58 p.m. and it would allow me to cancel that payment. Canceled payments do not get deleted, so they don't disappear. The confirmation number still exists, but it now shows in a canceled status. So if I come back over here and I simply refresh my page, within seconds, you'll see that this is also listed as now canceled for this payment. If we click on the plus sign, we can see that that payment was canceled by the customer. Okay, so any questions about payments, cancellation of payments, or anything like that?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so if the customer has a dispute, I think Michael Van Pelt sent me a message about the disputes. Hold on, let me just check and see.
I already released £7,000 for the last couple of things. Okay, one is 5.
Looks like the dispute button may not be working right now. Yeah, we get an error message. So I would check in tomorrow with Michael to see what's going on with that. But what should happen is it brings up a window that allows me to dispute this document as the customer and give you the reason that I'm disputing. So there would be a dispute reason list that they would be able to pick from, sales, freight and shipping, things like that. So you want to keep that in mind. They would simply click this button right here to dispute. And then you will be notified the day that they make a dispute. It'll send an email to someone on your team that is the dispute representative, I guess, or to an email distribution list if you choose that lets you know of any disputes so that you can handle those up front. Okay. So that is the summary, the open, the close, the payment history. Last but not least is settings. Settings is where your customer is going to be able to manage their account. So you will go to profile settings. You see is just me changing my username. Payment settings is me setting up ACH accounts. So I can add multiple bank accounts here and use whichever ones I want for payments. Notifications is how I get my emails. Do I want to get all the emails? Do I want PDFs attached to my emails? And then user management, this is something that you were kind of asking about previously. User management allows your customer's admin or super admin, if you will, to go ahead and add other individuals to their system. So you don't have to do that. So if they hire somebody it's an AP person that needs to be able to go in here and make payments, then it's the onus is on them to go in and put in that new person. It's really simple. It's just create a username for them, usually the email address, put in their name, put in their email address again and one more time, and then choose what settings they have the ability to do, right? And then they'd save. Once they save, the email address on file is going to get sent an email with a link to confirm that they are, in fact, who they say they are. And then the system will ask them to set up a password and then create 3 security questions and answers to in case they ever forget password. All right, so that is all I have for today's session, unless you have any questions.
Gary, Mike, and Carmela, we need to talk to see what kind of security we need to give our credit managers.
Okay.
Okay. Don't have any other questions, Justin.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to meet with me today. Thank you so much for being a Bill Trust customer. I hope everybody stays safe out there. And as I said, this meeting was recorded. So if you ask Bree for it, she'll be able to get that to you by the end of this week.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
good
for your
day.
time. All right, you too.
Bye-bye.